What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Odd Shopper channel, talking some college football betting ahead of week 1 Sunday slate of games. We've got 3 games on deck. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We're also brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook, and they have a new deal for new users. Bet $50 and you are going to get $250 in the form of bonus bets. $150 is going to be immediately issued to you upon that first bet settling, and then you'll get $50 each of the subsequent weeks for 4 weeks. And those bets need to be used within 7 days of issuance. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. And we dive into this slate. Maybe you can use one of these games with that Caesars promo. Tough slate betting wise, but we lead things off with Northwestern taking on Rutgers in the Battle of the Big Ten. 6 point spread, and the total in this game sits at 39.5, very, very low. For Rutgers, they are finally getting their 4-star quarterback Gavin Wimsatt to start and presumably have some health. We'll see about that. It's plagued him throughout his career, but he's the highest recruit this program's had in a while, so there should be at least some promise. He's mobile. We still don't know much. He hasn't played a ton yet. Running back should be good for this team. Samuel Brown, Kyle Monangai are here. You lose your top 3 receivers. This is a huge issue for this team. I think Isaiah Washington's probably going to be your number 1, maybe Western Illinois transfer Nassim Brantley. Ultimately, this team doesn't want to throw a ton anyway, so we'll see. It's really tough to evaluate the passing attack for Rutgers. At tight end, you have Johnny Langenbeck. He's actually a pretty dynamic player, former quarterback for this team. Will carry the ball occasionally. And I think the offensive line is probably going to be the best part of this unit. They lose 2. But you basically have 4 guys back with starting experience. And I think Kobe Asamoah, who actually started a few games himself, is going to fill in for this team. Right away, I think this is maybe the biggest issue with the offense. But last year, they were 1/10 in pass blocking. It's really hard to see them getting any worse. On defense, this was a team that was actually pretty solid overall. They only lose a few contributors, and most of these are on the back end: Avery Young, Christian Isian, and Christian Broswell. So right away, you have almost all of your front 7 back. All of your starting linebackers and projected defensive line have at least 350 snaps, and a lot of them a lot more. This is going to be the strength of this Rutgers team. In the secondary, you have 2 corners back with over 500 snaps of experience. Roger Longerbeam, Max Melton, these are both above average starters, which is good. Biggest question is probably safety. You have one starter back, and then Joe Lusardi projects to start at the other one. We'll see how this shakes up, but I think Rutgers is going to be a defensive team, and they're going to play slow, run-heavy games, which is kind of evidenced by the total here. But even if you look last year, this was already a defensive team. 117th in total offense, 50th in defense. This projects to be pretty similar this year. Getting to the Northwestern side, you guys have all probably heard about the turmoil of this program. Lost their head coach. They were already a disaster. Started having their best recruits flip. Lost a 4-star to Ohio State after the fiasco. Last year, they were 119th in total offense, 124th in total defense. I actually think some positions are improved here. Ben Bryant comes in at quarterback. He's basically a pocket statue, but he started a lot of games in his career, and he's definitely better than what they had. Running back, you lose Evan Hull, but Cam Porter is capable. Lost your top 3 pass catchers, but you do have Bryce Kurtz back. He's capable. A couple transfers like Jordan Mosley, Cam Johnson, AJ Henning. We'll see who actually starts for this team. But that's not bad. It's probably an upgrade from last year. Tight ends are all back. Offensive line is the biggest mess of the team, though. You lose Peter Skoronski and 3 other starters, so you're basically coming back with 1 full-time returning starter. A couple other guys have a few snaps. Think you could qualify this and say 2 guys technically have started enough games to qualify here. But man, they're just leaning on depth, and this is not good, especially players like Skoronski departing. You don't have another one of these guys in the offense. I know they've had a couple good tackles for a couple of years now, but this is not the Northwestern team of old, finding these guys out of basically diamonds in the rough. Defense is going to be a mess. 124th in total defense last year. They only have 1 player in the secondary projected to start over 350 snaps. I don't even know who starts at the second safety position. It's very hard to project. You have 1 full-time linebacker back and 2 full-time on the defensive line. So That's a huge issue. Plus, your best defensive lineman, Sean McLaughlin, he doesn't have a lot of depth behind him. I think Rutgers can probably scheme their way away from this player and focus on the interior, going to like Aiden Hubbard's side, and play pretty well here. This is a really hard game to handicap because I think both teams are going to be pretty slow. I expect Northwestern to be a little pass heavier, but man, this Northwestern defense is atrocious. If we even get anything out of Wimsatt up to his 4-star potential, I think Rutgers covers this spread. It's not one I've bet yet, but potentially one I'm going to add heading into Sunday's slated games. That would be Rutgers -6. We'll see where the line goes. Northwestern's taking some money. I don't even know if that's people backing Northwestern or just saying, hey, this is a really low total and it's hard to cover that many points. Going to our second game, this is going to be a fun one. We have Oregon State taking on San Jose State. 16.5 point spread in favor of San Jose, 54.5 total. I think a lot of people back in San Jose State after they hung with USC, covered that spread. But they're playing almost the polar opposite team in Oregon State here. This Oregon State team is going to ground and pound you to death. They're going to play slow. They're going to be run heavy. They're going to be efficient, and they'll play solid defense. They have Uiagalelei coming in from Clemson. This guy's extremely mobile. He cut a ton of weight last year, and it showed in his rushing efficiency. He actually wasn't as bad passing-wise efficiency either, compared to how some people treated him. He doubled big-time throws over turnover-worthy plays, and receiver's not as weak as you'd think here either. Anthony Gold actually had 2.5 yards per route run. Anything above 2 is very, very good in college football. So even losing Trayshawn Harrison and Tyjon Lindsley, I think you got a good number 1 receiver here. Plus, they play a ton of 2 tight end sets, and they want to run the ball. And luckily, last year's freshman breakout, Damian Martinez, is back. You also have Fenwick behind him. Excuse me, one of these guys transferred. I don't remember which one it was. Jam Griffin or Fenwick. You got 2 backs that are capable. These notes are a little bit old. But offensive line, you lose just 1 player, Brandon Kipper. The rest of this unit is excellent, solid pass blocking, solid run blocking as well. Paved the way for one of the best rushing attacks in the entire country last year. Losing 1 starter, solid. Main questions I have are on defense for this team, especially in the front 7. You have essentially like 2 full-time starters back and then a couple rotational players, 1 at tackle, 1 at edge. You lose your premier linebacker, and then you have 1 returning starter at that position if you want to qualify his 300 snaps as starting experience. Secondary, you lose 3 starters there, which could be a problem. San Jose State did play well against the USC defense, which apparently hasn't made any strides. It's hard for me to evaluate this. I do think Chevon Cordero can move the ball a little bit against this team, which has me hesitant to back like a San Jose State or an Oregon State for that matter. It's going to be volatile. We talked about San Jose State a lot last week. They lost 3 of their top 4 receivers, which I thought was going to be an issue. It wasn't. They still racked up points on USC. Their defense predictably gave up a ton of production, which I think you could see for a while. They had already lost 1 DT, 2 edges, 2 linebackers, and 1 corner heading into last year. Their secondary is the strength, which, I mean, you're facing one of the most lethal rushing attacks in the country. So I do think you're going to see Oregon State move the ball. I think San Jose State moves the ball a little bit here too. The main concern with like backing and over though is pacing. So this is going to be a pure stay away from me. I do not have a bet in this game. I do not have a strong lean even. Wish I did. Love these 2 teams. Last game, this is a tricky one. LSU taking on Florida State. It is a 2-point spread in favor of LSU, 56.5 total. I'm holding an LSU -2.5 from earlier this summer before some of this injury news and before Mason Smith got suspended. There's not really a good hedge out opportunity for me, so I'm just going to continue to hold it, but I would not take that line if I could go back. Anyway, both these teams are awesome. Just to break down the rosters a little bit, Jaden Daniels, returning signal caller for LSU, veteran, very, very good rushing, also a great passer. He doesn't take a lot of chances. He only had 3 turnover-worthy plays last year. I think that speaks more to him checking the ball down a lot rather than him pushing the ball downfield with any propensity. He'll be dueling with Jordan Travis. Very similar in terms of their profiles. Good mobility, really developed as a passer. Will take more chances, Travis will. I think it's pretty even there. The backfield I'd give to Florida State, Trayshawn Ward and Toa Feely. LSU's got a million entries in the backfield right now, but they do have Logan Diggs from Notre Dame. I think that is a boost. I'd still give the edge to Florida State. Receiver probably goes to Florida State, but it is extremely close. LSU has some quality options with Neighbors, Jenkins, Thomas, Lacey, all back. Plus you add Aaron Anderson from Alabama. You've got 4-star freshmen. But for Florida State, you just have the elite guys at the top. Johnny Wilson, you add Keon Coleman, Winston Wright's back. You have Jaheim Bell at tight end. He's a dynamic player, definitely better than LSU's tight end room. Offensive line, I am going to give to LSU, though. They lose one starter. You got 5 guys back with experience. Mason Lunsford comes in from Maryland. This is a very good group. Florida State is a bit of a question on the offensive line. You lose 2 starters. They were 2 of your better players. You have 4 guys back with experience if you include Bless Harris. He got hurt pretty early on last year. But this unit wasn't as good to begin with. 49th in run blocking, 71st in pass blocking. They will have at least 1 transfer starting. So we'll see. But very slight edge there. Defense, I'm torn. I think both these teams have great defenses. For Florida State, the edge going to be solid. You've got Verse, Patrick Payton. You had Gilbert Edmonds from South Carolina. You have Fabian Lovett still back. Very, very good defensive line. 2 linebackers back. You add Fentrell Cypress to your corner room. I mean, that is amazing. Fentrell Cypress was awesome with Virginia. 2 safeties back. So very good defense. LSU has more questions in the secondary. They're going to rely on a lot of transfers, but I think they have a ton of talent if it comes together. Zy Alexander from Southeastern Louisiana, Deuce Chestnut. You are projected to play a really highly recruited freshman, Javian Toviano. We'll see how that works. 2 safeties back. LSU's strength is going to be up front with Harold Perkins, Makai Wingo, some of their edge rushing group. Omar Spates they added in the transfer portal. It's a very good linebacking group. I think you could slightly give an edge Florida State's direction, and I think that's why they're taking a little bit of money here. I'd love to see Mason Smith and some of these running backs play for LSU. If I were betting this right now, it would be a pass or just wait to see it live. Maybe Florida State continues taking money. You can buy LSU closer to a pick'em. That's the sign I leaned to initially before we had some of this injury news, but unfortunately, that's just sometimes how the numbers break for you when you're betting games pretty early on. But that'll do it for us today. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of these games. Some pretty high-profile games, so I'd love to hear what sides you guys are on. I find it to be a pretty challenging betting card for this Sunday, but transparency-wise, really just holding LSU for now. We'll look to Rutgers potentially, and then I don't see myself betting Oregon State or San Jose State. Anyway, thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow breaking down the lone Duke-Clemson game. Until then, good luck, everyone. We will see you later.